Let's take a look at the accident that occurred during a routine departure on a VFR night. This was an experienced crew flying a G4, attempting to take off at Hanscom Field in Bedford, Massachusetts. The PIC had over 8,200 hours of flight time, and the SIC over 18,000 hours of flight time. This aircraft ultimately crashed, killing all 7 aboard, because according to the NTSB, flight crew members had a habitual non-compliance with checklists and failed to remove the control locks before takeoff. The flight department had firm policies in their manual, which their personnel were trained to follow and agreed not to deviate from. In this particular case, an experienced crew flew the aircraft to a US destination. Once there, the crew decided to blatantly disregard policy and not install the emergency exit locks as outlined in their security manual. The rationale of the PIC was that he felt the area looked safe and it was mostly farmland, so basically, what's the point? The following day, the crew arrived for departure, but instead found someone had broken into the aircraft through the overwing emergency exit. The onus of confidentiality is with the employee, and everyone must do their part to protect information, whether verbal or written. This means not giving information out to someone who doesn't have a need to know. It's knowing not just who needs to know a particular piece of information, but why. It's also not speaking in places where others may overhear conversations about your company, your personnel, or your principal. Let's talk about an incident that occurred to a flight crew member in Cape Town, South Africa. It's early evening and the crew of 3 is having dinner and a few drinks at a local restaurant. After 2 hours, the flight attendant asks the crew to walk back to the hotel with her, only a block away. The pilots ask her to wait for them to finish, but she really wants to get back and eventually leaves without them. She begins her walk back to the hotel and notices someone walking towards her. Over the last several years, we have surveyed numerous flight department personnel, asking whether or not they feel safe in the countries they typically fly to. Nearly 63% said they did not feel safe, while 20% said, well, it depends on the location, and only 17% said they consistently feel safe. But even for the 17%, a sense of safety may only be something that we feel when we have not had any experiences to the contrary. Now let's talk about aircraft security. Have you ever flown somewhere and thought to yourself, I really hope no one messes with the airplane? I've definitely had these thoughts on various islands in the Caribbean. So when do we hire aircraft security? I've heard it said in aviation, if the crew thinks we need it, then we hire. But what data does the crew use in order to make that decision? Or more importantly, what experience does the crew have that helps him or her to make that decision? Flight department schedulers and dispatchers should understand the risks associated with certain types of transportation and be proactive to verify the car and the driver. The verification should begin when either the vehicle is ordered or in some cases when your account is set up with a particular vendor. Let's take a look at a trip to Zacatecas, Mexico. The aircraft was set to arrive at 10 p.m. local time. The hotel the scheduler booked was about 20 minutes away south on Highway 45. This is a highway that has prolific crime and gang activity, and one the State Department has issued a travel warning for. At the time of the trip, no research was done prior to launching the plane. The crew arrived and after a few issues at the FBO, got into their arranged transportation about 11 p.m. and headed to the hotel. Have you ever heard the expression above the baseline? The baseline is defined as a standard of normalcy by which we judge our environment. It's the touchstone we use to assess what's going on around us based on a few simple dynamics. Typically, the average person who is not situationally aware recognizes something above the baseline only once it's too late. If you've ever been the victim of a crime and couldn't believe you didn't see it coming, you may not have recognized what was above the baseline. Did you know that the average criminal takes less than 7 seconds to size up and select his victim? His baseline assessment, because it happens so quickly, really depends on us and the energy that we project. Let's talk about what makes an ideal victim. Maintaining a low profile while traveling is a critical part of everything we've discussed so far. Our profile, which includes our attire, behavior, and awareness of the culture, can either make us noticeable or help us blend in. Fitting into our surroundings and not doing things that attract attention is what we like to call operating in the gray. This is a key part of our overall security profile. As we continue on, let's talk about alcohol and how it may alter your security profile. Do you or your team usually head to the hotel bar or restaurant for drinks after you arrive? Socializing as a crew is one of the fun parts of flying, but let's examine some of the vulnerabilities associated with alcohol consumption on the road. This can be a sensitive topic, but another common way people step out of the gray is through alcohol use. Let's talk now about hotel security. This is more than just the lock on your hotel room door. If you're like me, getting to the hotel after a long day of flying is a relief. And we all have our routines when we get in, but do our routines take into account security and personal safety? You're about to hear from Carla Westland, who, like many of us, was a regular rideshare user, until she was attacked in a vehicle on a night out with her friends. Here's Carla to tell you her story.
Hi, I'm Carla Westland, and I was kidnapped and raped by someone pretending to be my rideshare driver.
Being security-minded is the key to staying safe. Remember to make security in your life and work a forethought and not an afterthought. Make it a point to establish your own security protocols and stay within those boundaries.